Alright folks, the moment you've all been waiting for. The first annual Glazball Awards, A.K.A. the Glazzies. The only awards show that matters.
So, Glazball is from...
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange.
Glazball.
Your eyes.
Your eyes.
Yeah.
Glazzies. And as Malcolm McDowell is the unofficial mascot of Cinephobia Radio, I think it's only fitting that we name our first annual award the Glazball.
Good evening. This is Cinephobia Radio. Listen well. Listen well, my little droogies. Listen well.
Well, thank you for including me. I feel
there you
honored.
Go, you're honoured
I feel
doubly.
Honored to be included.
You're the presenter of the first annual Glazball
in this
Awards.
Celebrated charade. I feel
you
that this
never
is...
know. I mean, I might have Megan Fox doing it next year, but you can always say you did it first.
But first, this is the original...
Now, I got to explain something.
Okay.
Cinephobia. There's a connection here between the Glazball, Cinephobia, Clockwork Orange. Cinephobia, while it technically probably means the fear of light or the fear of cinema, really, to me, it's the fear of seeing. It's the fear of seeing truths that people don't want you to see. So the image of Malcolm McDowell in Clockwork Orange undergoing the Ludovico torture technique, where his eyeballs are basically forced open by a mechanical device and he's forced to see, that to me is connected to what Cinephobia kind of is about, in a sense. It's a bit abstract, tangential, but you get it.
I appreciate the esoterica involved.
Exactly. Hence the Glazball, the Glazzie. The only award that matters.
And you've got how many awards are there in your first
10.
season? 10 full awards.
Yeah, to kick it off for the first one, 10 awards.
Okay.
It's going to change next year, right? Because next year we're going to honour achievements that happened in this year. For this award, we're honouring an entire decade that preceded.
All right.
The decade of the zeros. The decade we've been talking about endlessly for what feels like almost a decade.
And 10 awards. 10 years,
awards.
10 awards
Exactly.
makes total sense.
No messing around.
And I've got 10 envelopes in front of me.
You've got 10 envelopes. You don't know the results.
No.
You don't even know the fucking categories.
No, actually, I'm hoping to...
Right?
Oh, no.
Dude, I didn't know what they were until about 10 minutes ago. But basically, we have 10 awards, but let's commence with the show.
How do we start? What's the first category?
First category, Best Film Podcast.
Best Film Podcast.
Of the decade.
Who decides who wins the Glazzies?
I do.
You.
I do. It's my show. Shut up. No, basically, for this time, I do. Next year, we're going to build a whole thing where we're going to let people nominate online and even vote online.
So,
the first one, Best Film Podcast. Hard to be objective, but I do listen to a lot of film podcasts, so I think I'm fairly qualified to nominate the best of the decade. Here's the nominees. Cinephobia Radio, obviously. No question about that. Also nominated was the Creative Screenwriting Podcast, hosted by Jeff Goldsmith, senior editor of Creative Screenwriting Magazine. It's a phenomenal podcast. You've listened.
Absolutely. If you can get past his intros, he asks very
he's got
good
these
questions.
like really long, 5-minute long intros where he basically plugs like a million tie-in commercial.
And he comes across as a bit of a tool. But so good are the rest
blows
of
my
them.
chances of sending him a link
So
to this.
good. So, well, I just like... He just came across so kind of uber
That's what
nerd.
they're like down in LA. They're just so shamelessly, they self-promote. It's a whole culture down there.
And yet...
So those 5-minute long shill rants that he goes on, that's totally in keeping with the mentality down there.
And yet somehow those 5 minutes are easily supplanted by a fantastic Q&A.
And you know what?
Very
All
well
you do is you
researched.
fast forward 5 minutes into the program, and then you got a Q&A. He's got all the best screenwriters. He conducts screenings, and they do a great post-screening Q&A.
Craft analysis, all sorts of stuff.
It's basically almost the same set of questions he asks them, but he gets deep inside the writing process, writing habits. Actually, one of my favourite ones, he had Dr. Uwe Boll on there.
Very funny.
Amazing. So
that's good.
Top marks from me. for creative screenwriting podcast, probably my favorite film podcast. You know, not that affected the vote. There's a whole other...
Okay, well, what's next?
There's a whole other mentality. I have to nominate the Apple iTunes Meet the Filmmaker podcast. You know, I don't really like to just brazenly give an award to Apple or iTunes or any of these corporate behemoth, Satan-worshipping, motherfucking death conglomerates. But credit where credit's due, man. Meet the Filmmaker is phenomenal. They have all the top filmmakers. But they basically run the gamut. And I will tell you, two of the greatest Meet the Filmmaker podcasts that I've listened to in recent times was Clint Eastwood and Francis Ford Coppola. I mean, this is the caliber of guests that they have. So I take it you haven't heard it.
I haven't listened to it, but
you're going to check it out.
I'm going to have
on
to
my
now,
recommendation.
particularly if it wins. Particularly.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if it wins a Glazzie,
I got to get on it now.
And finally, even though it doesn't deal with cinema as a whole, like the other podcasts that I mentioned, it is film related. It's deadpit.com, the horror radio station that comes out of Eastern Kentucky. Of course, we had the two hosts of the program on Cinephobia Radio, giving their best and worst picks of the decade. Now, there's a backstory to this. For the last 2 years, because of my other radio show, Rue Morgue Radio, which is a horror podcast, we've both been in contention for the same award, the Rondo Hatton Classic Horror Film Award.
This award right here.
You're holding one of them right now.
That I kind of look a little like.
You look almost identical to Rondo Hatton. You're like basically the illegitimate offspring of Rondo Hatton and Michael Berryman.
With a little Nosferatu mixed in. It's a good award. It's an attractive award.
Yeah, it's a good award. This year and last year, we beat deadpit.com 2 years in a row. And I thought, well, those poor fucking guys doing a little radio show in their basement in Kentucky, they deserve some accolades just by virtue of the fact that they've managed to get people to tune in to listen to those accents. That, in and of itself, is one of the most remarkable achievements in the world of podcasting.
Definitely, and it is an honor just to be nominated.
It's an honor just to be nominated, even if it is out of pity.
Now, okay, they're nominated, but you also nominated this podcast at the very beginning. No,
just objectively, you know, people might be suspicious of that fact because, well, it is my podcast and I'm giving out the awards and I'm nominating my own show, blah, 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 blah.
It's a good show, though.
That's what I thought. I just objectively took a step back and went, wait a minute. Cinephobia Radio fucking rules. I mean, look at you know how much work it takes to put one of these fucking things together? I deserve something other than eye strain.
Okay, so we've got the four.
That's it. We've got Cinephobia Radio, Creative Screenwriting, Meet the Filmmaker, and Dead Pit Radio.
Okay. And the winner of the Glazzie for the best film podcast of the decade is... I'm shocked, actually. Cinephobia. Accepting the award on behalf of Cinephobia Radio, Stuart Feedback Andrews. I can't say that I'm too surprised, really. It's a good podcast.
It's an upset.
Yeah.
It's an upset.
Again, did you just steal another award from Dead Pit?
I feel actually terrible accepting this award because now this is not only did I beat Dead Pit in the Rondo Hatton Classic Horror Awards 2 years in a row, but now I've just beat them in the fucking Glazball Awards. Talk about adding insult to injury.
That's gotta hurt.
Suppose I gotta give some sort of an acceptance speech. Well, I don't know what to say. Thank you very much, Cinephobia Radio, for nominating and voting Cinephobia Radio as Best Film Podcast of the Decade. I only have myself to thank for this, and I just want to, give a shout out to my fellow nominees, Jeff Goldsmith, the Apple iTunes Store, Deadpit.com. Sorry, guys. I feel for you. I really, really do. You do deserve better than how you've been treated in the award circuit in the past couple of seasons, but better luck next year. So congratulations, Cinephobia Radio.